So Eddie Hearn has signed several American fighters to multi-fight deals on Dazn. I'm gonna go through a few of them here, the major ones. So first of all, he signed Jerome Miller, I think to a 2-fight deal or 2 or 3-fight deal, I think Jerome Miller said. I think that's a good signing. I think Jerome Miller is a guy who sells himself a lot because he talks a lot. He's always calling out the big guys. He's always making a scene. Jerome Miller's doing all the right things. I know a lot of people don't like him, particularly in the UK. In fact, a lot of people in America don't like him. I've seen quite a few American channels do videos where they're really criticizing Jerome Miller pretty harshly. Obviously, he's a confrontational character. He's an ignorant kind of character, but he's a fighter at the end of the day, and I think Jerome Miller is a lot better than people realize. I think he's a problem for all the top heavyweights, and I think he's a good addition to the heavyweight division, Jerome Miller. I really do think this is going to be a guy who turns out to be far better than most fans realize. And it's like I have said many times, with a lot of boxing fans, when they don't like somebody, they start practicing wishful thinking. They start thinking, oh, I don't like this guy, so therefore he's rubbish, he's no good, he can't fight. Well, don't let your hatred for Jerome Miller cloud your judgment. This guy can fight, and I think he's a problem for Joshua and Wilder, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think he's a problem for any of the top guys. So I think that's a good signing for Eddie Hearn. He's already had Miller on a couple of his cards at the Barclays Center. And to be honest, right now, Joshua's probably upset with Hearn for signing this guy. Because it means he's going to have to be around this guy a lot. And there's clearly no love lost between the two of them. So, yeah, but from Jerome Miller's perspective and from boxing's perspective and from the perspective of this platform, Dazn, I think Jerome Miller is a good signing. I really do. So that's one of the first signings that he's made. The next signing that Eddie Hearn has made to Dazn on a multi-fight deal. I think this is a 3-fight deal where he'll appear on Dazn but be promoted by Yvonne Michelle, maybe co-promoted by Eddie Hearn during the 3 fights, I'm not sure. And that is Artur Beterbiev. This is a good signing. I actually think, see, people might find this strange, but I actually think Jerome Miller is a better signing than Beterbiev, simply for the fact that Jerome Miller speaks English, he's an American fighter, he's a heavyweight, he's calling out all the big guys, he's trash talking. Just as a promotional tool for the platform, I think Jerome Miller is a better signing than Beterbiev. It's not like they shouldn't have signed Beterbiev. Beterbiev is still a great signing. They've got to sign as many people as they can, right? So Beterbiev is a very good signing. He's a world champion, obviously. He'll be fighting Callum Johnson, and then beyond that, hopefully they'll get some unifications on. That'll be good. But given the fact that you've got Bivol and Kovalev fighting on HBO, and we saw what happened with HBO previously where allegedly Kathy Duva said, Kathy Duva did say that HBO wouldn't allow Kovalev to fight on any other platform. Okay, that's that's what she's claiming. So maybe it's the same with Bivol and still the same with Kovalev, where they can't fight on any other platform, whereas Beterbiev is locked into Dazn for his next 3 fights. So maybe he'll be able to do a deal to fight Stevenson. We'll see if Stevenson can get past Vodcek, and that's a very tough task for Stevenson. But still, Beterbiev is obviously quality, top draw. So it'll be very good for people to see Artur Beterbiev showcase his talent. Moving on to the next one, Daniel Roman. I don't know much about Roman, to be honest with you. I have looked at his box rec. I think I've seen him fight a couple of times. When you're moving down to the lighter weights in terms of signing people, Daniel Roman is definitely not a name that jumps out at you. So I can't imagine Dazn are going to sell many subscriptions off the back of Daniel Roman. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe because he's Mexican, I'm assuming he's Mexican. There'll be a lot more of a following for him than I realize. And he is from LA, obviously, where there's a hell of a lot of Mexicans. But yeah, I can't imagine this guy is going to cause too much waves. But it is what it is. He's still a world champion, and DAZN have signed him. Moving on, then we got Jesse Vargas. Vargas, he's fought Pacquiao. He's been in a few high-profile fights. It's an okay signing. It's nothing special. You fought Tim Bradley as well, obviously. It's okay, but nothing to write home about. I've never really been particularly big on Jesse Vargas as a fighter. So, yeah. Didn't realize he's actually from Las Vegas. Okay. Was he born and raised in Vegas? You don't hear of too many fighters that are actually born and raised in Vegas. They're usually from elsewhere and they go to Vegas to train in the gyms there and fight there and whatnot. But that's an aside. Jesse Vargas, shrug my shoulders kind of signing. Then there's Demetrius Andrade, who is one of the better signings that Eddie Hearn and DAZN have made. I'm not sure how many fights that he has with DAZN, but Andrade's a good fighter, talented, unbeaten, former world champion. If they maneuver him correctly, he could turn out to be the face of the platform in the short term. In the long term, they're obviously hoping to sign bigger names than Demetrius Andrade, but in the short term, if they maneuver him correctly, they match him correctly, he could turn out to be the face of the platform and encourage other fighters to sign up. So we'll see what happens there. Andrade has to stay busy, obviously. There's the possibility that he could fight Billy Joe Saunders. And with the money that Matchroom and DAZN have got behind them, if the Billy Joe Saunders fight went to a purse bid, they would very likely be able to get Billy Joe Saunders to the United States to fight Demetrius Andrade. And that would obviously benefit him. So we'll see how that goes, but that is one of their better signings for sure. His profile is not very big in the United States, so that's what they're going to be working on. But because of his talent, because of his pedigree, there's an opportunity there for them to capitalize on it and build his profile very big and turn him into somewhat of a star and perhaps the face of the brand. So we'll see. Next guy, Maurice Hawker, has been signed, I think, to a multi-fight deal. Now, Maurice Hawker, again, he's a run-of-the-mill world champion as far as I'm concerned. He is unbeaten, but 3 draws on his record. Yeah, he's an okay fighter. He's a decent world champion, but nothing special at all. So, again, an okay signing from Eddie Hearn and a world champion. At the end of the day, you want as many world champions as you can get because it just looks good for promotional purposes. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if Eddie Hearn tries to build these fighters in their hometowns the way that he's done in the UK. For those of you who don't know, maybe you're not from the UK, the way Eddie Hearn builds fighters is he likes to have them fight in their hometown as much as possible and builds a support base in their hometown first. Then, once there's a big support for them in their hometown, he'll move them around and have them fight in London if they're not from London at the bigger venues and stuff like that. But generally, he likes to build a support for the fighter in their hometown first. So it'd be interesting to see if he does that with the fighters he just signed. Now, people like Andrade, he's from Rhode Island. So I don't know how many arenas they have in Rhode Island. He'll probably box him in New York because it's not too far from Rhode Island. Hooker from Dallas, Texas. Yeah, they got some arenas and stadiums and stuff like that. I mean, not like Maurice Hawker can fill out a stadium at all, but maybe he might be able to fill out an arena in Dallas, Texas if Eddie Hearn pushes him enough with DAZN. Jesse Vargas from Vegas. I mean, they got smaller arenas in Vegas as well as the big hotels. Beterbiev, well, he's based in Canada, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with him, where they're going to box him. Jerome Miller, he's the obvious one. You know, you box him at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Simple. You can build up a fan base for him there and go from strength to strength, hopefully. And again, I can't emphasize enough, I think Miller is good, man. So I know people hate him and oh, this and that, but I think he's good. I think he's a problem. I'd like to see Jerome Miller fight the winner of Joshua Wilder. I really would. I'd like to see Miller be the first guy that they fight. Yeah. You could say Dylan White, but Dylan White's at least already fought Joshua. So from my perspective as a fan of boxing, I'd like to see Miller because neither Wilder nor Joshua have fought him. So if Wilder wins, he's the undisputed champion. What better way to defend the undisputed belts against a fellow American who's been calling them out for years, who's unbeaten, who's been disrespectful for years? What better way to defend his undisputed championship than against Miller? And for Joshua, if he beats Wilder, what better way to silence the Americans once and for all, from Joshua's perspective, by beating their loudest fighter in Jerome Miller. If he's already beaten Wilder and he's undisputed, there's only Miller left really in the US. So in terms of that, the fairly high profile heavyweights at the moment anyway, because he's already beaten Brazil, obviously, Molina, etc. Miller would be the last hope for the Americans if Joshua comes through Wilder. So yeah, I'd like to see Jerome Miller fight either Joshua or Wilder, you know, whoever wins that fight. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below about Dazn's opening lineup. They've also done a deal with Bellator, the MMA brand Bellator. And a lot of people in the United States like Bellator, so that'll attract a few of them. They're putting on several shows in the first month of Dazn going live. And you can get a 1 month free trial. So theoretically you could, you know, like with Netflix, you could sign up and cancel the day before the 1 month free trial ends, and you get a whole month of boxing and MMA for free. So a lot of people will probably be doing that. Oh, I nearly forgot to mention that the World Boxing Super Series second season will also be shown on Dazn. That's something I forgot to mention, and that is a big deal because that's obviously going to be a lot of high quality fights, world championship fights, so on and so forth on Dazn. So they'll also get that if you're in the United States, and Anthony Joshua's next couple of fights will also be on Dazn. So yeah, there is definitely some upside to it, but in terms of the American fighters they've actually signed to the platform, it's a relatively weak lineup so far, let's be real. This is not the strongest lineup you've seen, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Maybe they'll be able to improve upon this lineup. But at the moment, it's relatively shallow. Let me not say weak, let me say shallow, because they do have some good fighters in there. Andrade's a good fighter, Miller's a good fighter, Beterbiev is a fantastic fighter. So they've got good fighters on there, but not very many of them. So it's a pretty shallow pool of talent at the moment that they've got on Dazn with regards to their American fighters, or American-based fighters, or Canadian-based fighters in Beterbiev's case. But as I say, there is a sweetener there because they've got the World Boxing Super Series and they've got Joshua's next couple fights. So, and yeah, so we'll see how it goes. The price point is going to be $9.99, I think, so $10, which is apparently twice as much as, is it twice as much or 4 times as much? I can't remember, as the ESPN streaming service, which I forget the name of off the top of my head. So it's more expensive than the ESPN streaming service, but does it offer more value for money? Does it offer more content for the price, for the extra money that you're paying? I'm not sure. Perhaps it does. Anyway, let me know what you think about everything I've talked about in this video. It's Hatman, I'm out.